And once again, I want to say greetings to each and every one of you, Aquaba, and welcome. Welcome to another round of the Cultural Conscious Communications. It is Thursday. That means it is Tech and Future Talk here on LIB Radio, LIB TV. My name is Keedy Awado, aka The Conscious Rasta. Weekday mornings, you and I get together live. We come at you from 9 a.m. Pacific time. It's 12 noon Eastern time, 5 p.m. GMT, and 7 p.m. East Africa time. We get together with you and we deal with culture, consciousness, historical perspectives. We deal with entertainment, economics, education, health, labor, law, politics, religion, family, conflict, future studies, all areas of human interactivity and development. Today's date is Thursday. It is the 29th day of May, 2025 in the Western calendar. This corresponds to the year 6265 in the Kemetic calendar, to which we have realigned our cultural clock. Welcome to the seventh millennium. You have found your family in a peaceful place here on LIB Radio. I just put my clothes back on. I noticed that I was having a disappearing garment moment there. And now we are fully clothed again, ready to go. Let me tell you what we have for today's broadcast. I hope that you find this to be fascinating. Today, the theme is Cinema of Burkina Faso, telling our story today. The cinema of Burkina Faso is one of the most significant in Africa, with a history that spans several decades and includes the production of many award-winning films. Today, the Sahel states are undergoing a tremendous and dynamic transition into a position of greater sovereignty and sustainable development. What most of us have been unaware of is the long history of award-winning films. Today on LIB Radio, we take a closer look at Burkina filmmaking, exploring an idea that we in America can and should take a strong lead in furthering this nation's cinema, as well as take a primary lead in getting Burkinabe films distributed around the world. So that is the theme for today, the cinema of Burkinabe. And I do hope that you enjoy this. We're going to go through a lot of different things here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up this extra screen over here, and we're going to take a look at what we have on board for today. So I'm pulling up this extra screen, and I'm going to say greetings to all of you tuned in today. I don't see anybody tuned in, but doggone it, it is going to be fascinating discussion today. So we're going to do the best we can. I want everybody to please bear with me as the second day of my right-hand computer is completely down. I ordered a new adapter, web adapter for it, and it arrived and it did not work. I can't seem to get it to work. My network adapter just will not queue up for this computer. So we are partially limited. And I do see that I do have an audience today. The only thing is I cannot tell how many of you are with me unless you speak up or hit the chat or hit a like button, then I will be able to tell how many people are with me today. So we're just going to do the best we can. That's all that can be expected. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the a second screen. I'm going to share screen, and we're going to look at two short pieces of video dealing with Pan-African film festivals in Burkina Faso. And the one we're going to be looking at, it's called FESPAC, FESPAC, FESPAC. So let's share this video, grab it. I'm going to put it up on the screen. I put it up there and I took it back off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute myself briefly. Then I'm going to play the first of two. I'm going to play the first of two separate pieces of film that I do have queued up over here. So let's do this. I'm going to mute my mic right now.
What the hell's...
Welcome to the Pan-African Film Festival.
I'm not going to share this right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go double check on it and make sure that it is sharing the audio. So let me add this to stage. I'm going to share screen, present the screen. Okay, I'm going to present the screen, share the screen. I'm going to make sure it shares my audio because yesterday, as I went to share this, the sister told me that she did not hear the audio. Now, I thought the audio was running. I'm going to share that screen right now. And let's go over here. Ooh, boy, this is complicated, isn't it? Add to stage, mute me, and start the video.
Welcome to the Pan-African Film Festival, FESPACO, the largest and most prestigious film festival in Africa. Held in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso, this biennial event celebrates Welcome to the Pan-African Film Festival, FESPACO, the largest and most prestigious film festival in Africa. Held in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso, this biennial event celebrates the richness of African cinema and promotes cultural heritage through the art of filmmaking. Since its inception in 1969, FESPACO
That was torture. I don't know what happened. It was messed up. I'm going to share the second video. Okay, I have got my mic up. I'm going to share this second video right now. Present screen, share screen. And this is also talking about FESPACO in Burkina Faso. FESPACO is an annual film festival that takes place there. I'm going to mute me and I'm going to pull the screen over here so it's not so difficult to move back and forth. I'm going to mute me right now and play. Okay, I am back again, live and direct. And for some odd reason, my microphone would not unmute. So now I can be heard. And what a mess today is. we Let's go into and let's tell the story of the cinema of Burkina Faso. That is the theme today, the cinema of Burkina Faso, telling our story. Now, I have a number of different articles up. The first one I'm going to focus in on is we're going to go to Wikipedia, not my favorite website, but in art and cinema, it's not bad. And I'm looking at a filmmaker who's actually not from Burkina Faso. He is from Mali, which is right now, Mali and Burkina Faso actually technically are the same nation. They are in the Republic of Sahel States, or the Federation of Sahel States, FSS. And we're going to look at Suleiman Cisse. He is a film director, and we are up on Wikipedia. I'm going to put up a link to his narrative if I can find it. My desk is really confusing today. And I do have it right here. Suleiman Cisse. Where are you? Suleiman Cisse. Here he is. He's up on Wikipedia. And I'm going to share that link for my listening audience on Rumble. I'm going to share that link with my Facebook family. And I'm going to share that link with my YouTube family. And now we are sharing. Here's what it has to say. Suleiman Cisse, born April 21st, 1940. He made his ancestral transition on February 19, 2025. So he just transitioned just this year. He was a Malian film director, regarded as one of the first generation of African filmmakers. He was called Africa's greatest living filmmaker, while his film Yelen has been called conceivably the greatest African film ever made. And it was named that in the Chicago Reader, January 2022. He was the first director from Sub-Saharan Africa to receive an award at the Cannes Film Festival in 1987 for Yelen. He was awarded the Golden Coach in 2023. Born in Bamako, Mali, and raised in a Muslim family, Suleiman Cisse was a passionate cinephile from childhood. He attended secondary school in Dakar and returned to Mali in 1960 after national independence. His film career began as an assistant projectionist for a documentary on the arrest of Patrice Lumumba. This triggered his desire to create films of his own, and he obtained a scholarship at the Gerasimov Institute of Cinematography, the Moscow School of Cinema and Television. In 1970, he returned to Mali and joined the Ministry of Information as a cameraman, where he produced documentaries and short films. 2 years later, he produced his first medium-length film, and that film was titled Cinq Jours d'une Vie, 5 Days in a Life, which tells a story of a young man who drops out of a Quranic school and becomes a petty thief living on the street. Cinq Jours premiered at the Carthage Film Festival. In 1974, Cissé produced his first full-length film in the Bambara language, Den Muso, The Girl, the story of a young mute girl who has been raped. The girl becomes pregnant and is rejected both by her family and by the child's father. Den Muso was banned by the Malian Minister of Culture, and Cissé was arrested and jailed for the dubious charge of accepting French funding. Cissé would never know the real reason for his arrest, but while in jail, he wrote the screenplay for his next film, Bara, Work. Cissé would finish and release this film to much acclaim 4 years later, winning the Yanengas Talent Prize at FESPACO in 1979. And again, the FESPACO Film Festival took place in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso. In 1982, Cissé produced Fignet, Wind, and tells a story of a dissatisfied Malian youth rising up against the establishment. Of dissatisfied Malian youth, not a single, but plural, rising up against the establishment. This earned him his second Yanenga's talent at 1983's FESPACO. Between 1984 and 1987, he produced Yellen, Light or Brightness, a coming-of-age film that won the jury prize at the 1987 Cannes Film Festival, becoming the first African film to win a prize in the festival's history. Often cited as his greatest work, Cissé stated in an interview for Cahiers du Cinéma that it was, quote, in part made in opposition to European ethnographic films, unquote, and that he wanted to make a response to an external perception, a perception by white technicians and academics, an alien perception, unquote. In 1995, he produced Wati, Time, which competed for the Palme d'Or at the 1995 Cannes Film Festival. In 2009, he filmed a comedy that talks about polygamy, inspired by his father, when he, his 8 brothers, and his sisters should leave their home in 1988. In the film, O Ka, Our House, he reminded the legal battle of his sisters when they were expelled from their house in Bamako. Cissé was president of UE, let me do this again. Cissé was president of UCECAO, the Union of Creators and Entrepreneurs of Cinema and Audiovisual Arts of West Africa. His younger brother is film director Alun Ifra Nidaye. Cissé was awarded the Carrosse d'Or Award at the 2023 Cannes Film Festival, a symbol of the pioneering quality of his films. The award disappeared from his home in Bamako and was reported stolen on the 29th of April, 2024. The loss caused significant public distress in Mali, prompting calls for collective efforts to recover the trophy and reaffirm the nation's cultural pride. Cisse died at a clinic in Bamako, Mali, on the 19th of February, 2025, at the age of 84. Shortly before his death, he was scheduled to chair the fiction feature film jury at the 29th edition of FESPACO on February 22 in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso. Next, it talks about his legacy and his style. Souleymane Cisse is one of the most recognized African filmmakers of the 20th century, and his work exemplifies the development of social realism in African cinema, including its eventual movement towards the recovery of tradition. Cisse has also been called, quote, a master of complex storytelling, preserving the mysterious in the mundane. His films have been known for their uncompromising depictions of military violence, abuse of money and power, trade unionism, and the enduring stranglehold of patriarchal traditions over Bamako's women and youth. So that is a biography of Souleymane Cisse. Obviously, his works, his accomplishment go way, way beyond that. A history of his films include L'Aspirant, a short film, came out in 1988. Source d'inspiration came out in 1968. D'égal et dialogue, that's 1970. Fête du Sanke, that's 1971. Cinq jours d'une vie, 1972. Den Musso, 1975. L'Homme et ses idoles, short film, came out in 1975. Bade, 1978. Chanteurs traditionnels de les Seychelles, 1978. Figné, 1982. Yélin, his masterpiece, 1987. Wati, 1995. Tell Me Who You Are, 2009. O Sembene, 2013. And his final film, Our House, came out in 2015. So there is a brief biography on Souleymane Cisse. Very, very important that we do get a chance to know this brilliant, brilliant filmmaker. The next thing I'm going to put up, I'm going to copy the link first, go into this file, and we're going to talk more about the cinema of Africa. So what I'm going to do is post the link up here. It's on Facebook, Cinema de Africa. And I'm going to paste it also up on this page. Cinema of Africa. And I'm going to post it up also on my Facebook page, Cinema de Africa. And one more place I'm going to paste it is up on the web page, and that is Cinema de Africa. I have you there, and I do see For Africa One has joined me in the audience today. Thank you, beloved. We are absolutely honored to have you with us. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to paste up a link to Yélin. Yélin is Souleymane Cisse's outstanding film, and I did see it up on YouTube. So let me grab it from YouTube. I don't like YouTube, but when YouTube does something like this, I can definitely agree its value. Yelin, which is entitled also in English, that stands for brightness, Brightness, by Suleiman Cisse. And here it is. It's a very, very complex film. I guarantee you, Sister 4 Africa 1, you are going to love this film. Copy the video. And Yalen, and I do see she sent me a message. She says, "Thank you for introducing me to this filmmaker previously unknown to me." Thank you for showing an interest in it. I There's a good chance that I will be visiting Burkina Faso later this year. While in Burkina Faso, I'm going to do the best I can to try to get permission to distribute a Burkinab film or several films. Now, you can help. You can help because in order to distribute these films, I'm going to have to compensate the filmmakers and I'm going to have to get my own copy. Getting my own copy is not going to be difficult. Compensating the filmmakers, the Burkina filmmakers, for their work will be complex. We will need to, of course, sign some contracts. And I will try my best to bring the Burkina filmmakers back with me. They do, of course, speak French. I do speak French. So, in anticipation of that trip, I'm actually re-studying Tree right now, which Tree is the language of the Ashanti people of Ghana. And I'm pretty fluent in French, but I have to go back inside my head and pull it all back out. So I'm going to do the best I can to get these Burkinabe films and bring them back. Why not? Why not us? Why not me? So I did put up the link to that. I'm also going to make sure I have the link for Suleiman Cisse, and I'm going to put up the link to Brightness. Yelen, Uielen, aka Brightness. And Brightness is a wonderful, wonderful film. It deals with African indigenous magic, and it's such a compelling theme. If you ask me or ask anyone else who knows about African indigenous magic, it is really, truly all of that. And I'm going to post this up one more place here for my Facebook family. I'm going to post this up under the live video feed where you can have access to it as well. And it is right there. It's Yelen, Yeelen, Brightness. There we go. Next, we're going to look at the film's African film making, and we're going to go back to my research document. I'm going to open this up. And where are you? Where are you? Not there. You're somewhere on my desktop. It is not here. The cinema of African cinema. Here we go. Copy that and paste it where? Let's paste it over here. And this one, we're going to paste up Cinema of Africa. This once again takes us to Wikipedia. It's a tough time these days. Cinema of Africa. From Wikipedia, Cinema of Africa covers both the history and present of the making or screening of films on the African continent, and also refers to the persons involved in this form of audio-visual culture. It dates back to the early 20th century when film reels were the primary cinematic technology in use. As there are more than 50 countries with audio-visual traditions, there is no one single African cinema. Both historically and culturally, there are major regional differences between North African and sub-Saharan African cinemas, and between the cinemas of different countries. The cinema of Egypt and the cinema of Tunisia are among the oldest in the world. Cinema of Egypt in particular is the most established and flourishing industry in Africa. Pioneers Auguste and Linus Lumiere screened their films in Alexandria, Cairo, Tunis, Susa, Libya, and Hammam Leaf. Hammam Leaf. That's what I'm trying to say. Tunisia in 1896. Albert Samana Chikli is often cited as the first producer of indigenous African cinema, screening his own short documentaries in the Casino of Tunis as early as December 2005. The first film to be produced was the 1923's Barsoum Looking for a Job in Egypt. Alongside his daughter, Hedi Tamzali, Chikli would go on to produce important early milestones, such as 1924's The Girl from Carthage. In 1927, Egypt produced Laila, the first feature-length film produced by Aziza Amir and directed by Stephen Rusty and Wedad Orfi. In 1935, the studio Misr in Cairo began producing mostly formulaic comedies and musicals, but also films like Kamal Salim's The Will, 1939. Egyptian cinema flourished in the 1940s, 50s, and the 1960s, considered its golden age. Youssef Chahin's seminal Cairo Station, 1958, laid the foundation for Arab film. The Nigerian film industry is the largest in Africa in terms of volume, number of annual films, revenue, and popularity. It is also the second largest film producer in the world. In 2016, Nigeria's film industry contributed 2.3% to its gross domestic product, GDP. The history. In the colonial era, during the colonial era, Africa was represented largely by Western filmmakers. In the first decades of the 20th century, Western filmmakers made films that depicted Black Africans as, quote, exoticized, unquote, and, quote, submissive workers, or as savage or cannibalistic. For example, see Kings of the Cannibal Islands in 1909, Voodoo Vengeance 1930 or 1913, and Congorilla 1932. Colonial era films portrayed Africa as exotic, without history or culture. Examples abound and include jungle epics based on the Tarzan character, created by Edgar Rice Burroughs, and the adventure film The African Queen, 1951, and various adaptations of H. Rider Haggard's novel, King Solomon's Mines, 1885. African cinema evolved through different historical phases, each reflecting the socio-political landscape of the continent. The early years of African cinema were heavily influenced by colonialism, with many films produced by European directors who often depicted Africa through a colonial lens. However, the post-independence era saw a surge in films by African filmmakers who sought to portray authentic African stories, often focusing on themes of decolonization, identity, and cultural heritage. This period gave birth to what is often referred to as the golden age, quote unquote, of African cinema, characterized by filmmakers like Usman Sembene, who is widely regarded as the father of African cinema. Usman Sembene. One of the first films to be entirely produced in Africa was the South African dramatic film, The Great Kimberley Diamond Robbery, 1911. It was followed by De Voortrekkers, South Africa's and possibly Africa's first epic film and oldest surviving film about the Great Trek, and that is the Boers, and targeted at an Afrikaner audience. A notable theme in early South African cinema was the ethnic confrontation between Afrikaner, specifically Boer, and British South Africans. Much early ethnographic cinema focused on highlighting the differences between indigenous people and the white, quote, civilized man, thus reinforcing colonial propaganda. Marc Allegre's first film, Voyage au Congo, 1927, respectfully portrayed the Massa people, in particular a young African entertaining his little brother with a baby crocodile on a string. Yet Africans were portrayed merely as human, but not equals. A dialogue card, for example, referred to the movements of a traditional dance as naive. His lover, André Gide, accompanied Allegre and wrote a book also titled Voyage au Congo. Allegre later made Zuzu, starring Josephine Baker, the first major film starring a Black woman. Baker had caused a sensation in the Paris arts scene by dancing in the revue Negre, clad only in a string of bananas. In the French colonies, Africans were prohibited by the 1934 Laval Decree from making films of their own. The ban stunted the growth of film as a means of African expression, political, cultural, and artistic. I'm going to repeat that last sentence. In the French colonies, Africans were prohibited by the 1934 Laval Decree from making films of their own. The ban stunted the growth of film as a means of African expression, political, cultural, and artistic. Congolese Albert Mongita did make the cinema lesson in 1951, and in 1953, Mamadou Touré made Moura Mani, based on a folk story about a man and his dog. In 1955, Paulin Sumano Vieira, originally from Benin, but educated in Senegal, along with his colleagues from Le Groupe Africain du Cinéma, shot a short film in Paris, Africa sur Seine. Vieira was trained in filmmaking at the Institut des Hautes Études Cinématographiques, IDEHEC, in Paris, and despite the ban on filmmaking in Africa, was granted permission to make a film in France. Considered the first film directed by a Black African, Africa sur Seine explores the difficulties of being an African in 1950s France. Portuguese colonies came to independence with no film production facilities at all, since the colonial government there restricted filmmaking to colonist propaganda, emphasizing the inferiority of indigenous populations. Therefore, little thought was given until independence to developing authentic African voices. In the mid 1930s, the Bantu educational kinema experiment in Eastern and Southeastern African countries was conducted in an attempt to educate the Bantu, mostly about hygiene. Only 3 films from this project survive. They are kept at the British Film Institute. Before the colony's independence, few anti-colonial films were produced. Examples include Statues Also Die, Les Statues Meurent Aussi by Chris Marker and Alain Resnais, about European theft of African art. The second half of the film was banned for years by the French authorities. The 1950 film Afrique 50 by René Vautier showed anti-colonial riots in Côte d'Ivoire and in Upper Volta, now Burkina Faso, and was likewise banned, with Vautier being jailed for several months. Also doing film work in Africa at this time was French ethnographic filmmaker Jean Roche. Controversial with both French and African audiences. Film documentaries such as Jaguar, 1955, Le Maître Fou, 1955, Moi un Noir, 1958, and La Pyramide Humaine, 1961. Roche's documentaries were not explicitly anti-colonial, but did challenge perceptions of colonial Africa and give new voice to Africans. Although Roche was accused by Ousmane Sembène and others of, quote, seeing Africans as if they are insects, unquote, Roche was an important figure in the developing field of African film and was the first person to work with Africans, of whom many had important careers in African cinema, such as Umaru Ganda, Safi Faye, and Mustafa Akassani, and others. Because most films made prior to independence were egregiously racist in nature, African filmmakers of the independence era, such as Ousmane Sembène and Umaru Ganda, among others, saw filmmaking as an important political tool for rectifying the image of Africans put forward by Western filmmakers and for reclaiming the image of Africa for African people. And it goes on. Post-independence in the 1970s, the first African film to win international recognition was Sembène Ousmane's Le Noir Day, also known as Black Girl. It showed the despair of an African woman who has to work as a maid in France. It won the Prix Jean Vigo in 1966, the Jean Vigo Prize in 1966, initially a writer Sembene had turned to cinema to fetch a wider audience. He is still considered the, quote, father of African cinema. Sembene's native Senegal continued to be the most important place of African film production for more than a decade. With the creation of the African Film Festival FESPACO, in today's Burkina Faso, in 1969, African film created its own forum. FESPACO now takes place every 2 years in alternation with the Carthago Film Festival in Tunisia. The Pan-African Festival of Filmmakers, Federation of Filmmakers, the Pan-African Federation of Filmmakers was formed in 1969 to promote African film industries in terms of production, distribution, and exhibition. From its inceptions, FIPACI was seen as a critical partner organization to the Organization of African Unity, OAU, now the African Union. FIPACI looks at the role of film in political, economic, and cultural development of African states and the continent as a whole. Med Hondo's Soleil O, shot in 1969, was immediately recognized. No less politically engaged than Sembene, he chose a more controversial filmic language to show what it means to be a stranger in France with the wrong skin color. 1980s and 1990s. Suleiman Cisse's Yélin, Mali, 1987, was the first film made by a Black African to compete at Cannes. Sheikh Umar Sissiko's Gwimba, Mali, 1995, was also well received in the West. Many films of the 1990s, including Quartier Mozart by Jean-Pierre Bacolo, Cameroon, 1992, are situated in the globalized African metropolis. Nigerian cinema experienced a large growth in the 1990s with the increasing availability of home video cameras bear with me, in Nigeria, and soon put Nollywood in the nexus for West African English language films. Nollywood produced 1,844 movies in 2013 alone. The last movie theater in Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of the Congo, shut down in 2004. Many of the former cinemas were converted to churches. In 2009, the UN Refugee Agency screened Breaking the Silence in South Kivu and Katanga province. The film deals with rape in the Congolese civil wars. In neighboring Brazzaville, Republic of the Congo, a 200-seat cinema, MTS Movies House, opened in 2016, and in 2018, construction began on another new cinema. A first African Film Summit took place in South Africa in 2006. It was followed by FEPACI 9th Congress. The African Movie Academy Awards were launched in 2004, making the growth of local film industries like that of Nigeria, as well as the development and spread of the film industry culture in sub-Saharan Africa. 2000s and 2010s, contemporary African cinema deals with a wide variety of themes related to modern issues and universal problems. Migration and relations between Africa and European countries is a common theme among many African films. Abderrahmane Sissiko's film Waiting for Happiness portrays a Mauritanian city struggling against foreign influences through the journey of a migrant coming home from Europe. Migration is also an important theme in Mohamed Saleh Haroun's film Une saison en France, a season in France, which shows the journey of a family from the Central African Republic seeking asylum in France. Haroun is part of the Chadian diaspora in France and uses the film to explore aspects of his diasporan experience. African futurism and Afrofuturism is a growing genre encompassing Africans both on the continent and in the diaspora who tell science or speculative fiction stories involving Africa and African people. Neil Blomkamp's District 9 is a well-known example portraying an alien invasion of South Africa. Wanari Kahu's short film Pumzi portrays the futuristic fiction Maitu community in Africa 35 years after World War III. Directors, including Haroun and Kahu, have expressed concerns about the lack of cinema infrastructure and appreciation in various African countries. However, organizations such as the Changamoto Arts Fund are providing more resources and opportunities to African filmmakers. 2020s. Some African countries suffer a lack of freedom of speech that undermine the film industry. This is particularly severe in Equatorial Guinea. The feature film, The Writers from a Country Without Bookstores, is the first to be shot in the country and critic with Teodoro Obiang Nguema's Mbasogo's dictatorship, one of the longest lasting in the world. In 2025, Angola premiered its first musical film, still one of the few to be shot in Africa, called The Adventures of Angosat. Contains music composed by local rapper Isis Hembe. African cinema, like cinema in other world regions, covers a wide variety of topics. In Algiers in 1975, the Pan-African Federation of Filmmakers, FIPACI, adopted the Charte du Cinéaste Africain, Charter of the African Cineast, which recognized the importance of post-colonial and neo-colonial realities in African cinema. The filmmakers start by recalling the neo-colonial condition of African societies. The situation contemporary African societies live in is one in which they are dominated on several levels, politically, economically, and culturally. African filmmakers stress their solidarity with the progressive filmmakers in other parts of the world. African cinema is often seen as a part of third cinema. Some African filmmakers, for example, Usman Sembene, try to give African history back to African people by remembering the resistance to European and Islamic domination. The African filmmaker is often compared to the traditional griot. Like griots, filmmakers' task is to express and reflect communal experiences. Patterns of African oral literature often recur in African films. African film has also been influenced by traditions from other continents, such as Italian neorealism, Brazilian cinema novo, and the theater of Bertolt Brecht. And there's this is going to go on for some time. Let me begin to wrap it up. I'm not going to wrap it up until I finish this next section, though. And I do welcome my listening audience in case you are in the house. Is there anybody here talking to me? I am talking about Cinema of Africa. You could be reading along, or you could be talking to me. Let me go and see. I have comments, no comments, but I can put this link up, Cinema to Africa. Put that up on the Facebook, and I do see a message that's unrelated to today's topic, but I want to put this link up. And one more place. I like this topic. I hope you don't mind, but I think the topic is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. We are continuing. I'm going to read one more section before we begin to wrap it up. Cinema of Africa. Women directors. They include Kemi Adetiba, born in 1980, Nigerian filmmaker, 2014. Safi Faye, who lived from 1943 until 2023, Senegalese filmmaker, anthropologist, ethnologist, and feminist. Wahuri Kahu, Wahuri Kahu, Wanuri Kahu, bear with me. Wanuri Kahu, born 1980, Kenyan film director, producer, and author, as well as Kala Khalil, born 1967 in Egypt, film director, producer, and screenwriter. Recognized as one of the pioneers of Senegalese cinema, as well as cinema developed on the African continent at large, ethnologist and filmmaker Safi Faye was the first African woman director to gain international recognition. Faye's first film, La Passante, The Passerby, was released in 1972, and following this, Kadu Bekat, Letter from My Village. The filmmaker's first feature film was released in 1975. Faye continued to be active with several release works in the latter half of the 1970s, all the way through her latest work, the 1996 dramatic film Moussane. Sarah Molderour, a French filmmaker and the daughter of immigrants from Guadeloupe, has been recognized as one of the pioneers of African cinema in the diaspora. She is the founder of Les Griots, the Troubadours, the first dramatic company in France made for actors of African and Afro-Caribbean descent. Originally in the theater, she went on to study filmmaking at the State Institute of Cinematography of the Russian Federation, VGIK, in Moscow. In 1972, Molderour shot her film Sambizanga about the 1961 to 1974 war in Angola. Surviving African women of this war are the subject of the documentary Les Oubliées, The Forgotten Women, made by Anne-Laure Folly 20 years later. Molderour also worked as assistant director on The Battle of Algiers, 1966, with filmmaker Gillo Pontecorvo. In 1995, Wanjuri Kianjwe made the feature film The Battle of the Sacred Tree in Kenya. In 2008, Manushka Kelly Lubouba became the first woman in the history of Gabonese cinema to direct a fictional film. Her short film, Le Divorce, Le Divorce, addresses the impact of modern and traditional values on the divorce of young Gabonese couple. Kemi Adetiba, hitherto a music video director, made her first directorial debut in 2016 with The Wedding Party. The film, about the events involved in the celebration of an aristocratic wedding, would go on to become the most successful Nollywood film in the history of her native Nigeria. Wanuri Kahu is a Kenyan film director best known for her film From a Whisper, which was awarded the Best Director, Best Screenplay, and Best Picture at the African Movie Academy Awards in 2009. Nearly 10 years after the release of From a Whisper, Kahu's film Rafiki, a coming-of-age romantic drama about two teenage girls in the present-day Kenya. The film made headlines partly for its selection at the Cannes Film Festival, but also for its exploration of sexuality that did not sit well with the Kenyan government. And of course, they're talking about girl on girl, and that does not fly in Africa, period. But it does fly in Europe, where the film was given its award. Um, Rungano Nyoni, best known for the internationally acclaimed feature film I Am Not a Witch, is a Zambian Welsh director and screenwriter. Born in Zambia, also raised in Wales, Nyoni went on to graduate from the University of Arts in London with a master's in acting in 2009. Her filmography as a filmmaker, whether as director or screenwriter, also includes the short films The List, 2009, and Mwanza the Great, 2011, Listen, 2014. And she was also one of the directors of the international film project Nordic Factory in 2014. She has been awarded a variety of awards, including a BATF for Outstanding Debut by a British filmmaker for I Am Not a Witch. Representation and identity. This goes on for some time, and I am tired. And I'm going to stop reading right now. I clear this dust out of my eye. Today was a good day. I agree with you for Africa One. I want to thank myself for this topic today of filmmaking. And it goes on and on, lists of cinema by region, cinema of Algeria, Egypt, Libya, cinema of Morocco, Tunisia, West African cinema of Burkina Faso, Benin, Cape Verde, the Gambia, Ghana, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Cote d'Ivoire, cinema of Liberia, Mali, Mauritania, Nigeria, Senegal, Sierra Leone, and Togo, and Central Africa. There's a lot of movies. There are a lot of movies coming off the continent, and the African continent has a ton of directors and cinematographers. We've done our best to inspire. I'll go down to the last section here and share this. The future of African cinema. The future of African cinema looks promising. With the advent of digital technology and the rise of new platforms for distribution, such as streaming services, these advancements are making it easier for African filmmakers to produce and distribute their films globally. Additionally, there is a growing interest in African cinema from international audiences and film festivals, providing more opportunities for African filmmakers to showcase their work on the world stage. The increasing visibility of African films is also fostering collaborations between African filmmakers and their counterparts in other parts of the world, leading to richer and more diverse cinematic narratives. This reminds me of the phrase, you've heard me repeat it, until the lion learns to write, the tale of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. So, from the perspective of the lion, we are telling our stories now. And personally, I'm pretty grateful. I am very grateful to my brothers and my sisters. So, on that note, we say greetings to each and every one of you. Let me just double check, make sure nobody's message gets left behind. I do see for Africa One in his house. She says, I love this broadcast too. Are you still in contact with a young female filmmaker you were supporting for a few years ago? That was the sister who had gone to Cuba to study medicine. And we're not still in contact with her. I am in contact, very remote, because it's been over 10 years, with Eric Kabera. He's head of the Rwanda Cinema School. Let me see if real quickly I can locate Eric Kabera, Rwanda Cinema School. Eric, Erikabera, Rwanda, Rwanda, Cinema, Cinema School, School. I think I did find him. Eric Kabera, Kwetu Film Institute, Eric Kabera. And let me just real quickly give you a background on Eric Kabera and what is taking place in Rwanda. Now, where are you? He's in this photograph, but I don't see him. Is that him? I think that is Eric Kabera. It's been a long time. No, I don't think that's him. But Kwetu Film Institute is the home that brings value to our faces, voices, and future film prospects through the dynamic of the creative force. Film industry is one of the biggest in leisure and the entertainment world. The nascent film industry in Rwanda is beginning to blossom, and a number of players have come up to support it thus. A sustainable film industry in Rwanda can only be supported by a strong and sustainable capacity building mechanism in creating film content providers with a spirit of creativity and entrepreneurship. Kwetu's film production training to yield movie economy. About Kwetu Film School, its vision, mission, and situation. Kwetu Film School is located in Gakuriro Estates in Kigali. It is a center of academic and cultural institution exploring new kinds of communication, control, cultural expression, and regional civic engagement. Kwetu Film School is a growing film institution that is here to provide trainings and education for interested and talented students and professionals in the creative and technical fields of film and television. Our vision is to be among the leading training institutes in filmmaking, media, and design in Rwanda and the region. Now, I am going to look for the name Ooh, I like this. I like this. Let me give you the link. Eric Cabrera. I'm looking for Eric's name on this page. Find ERIC. And it talks about our biggest asset at this moment is the fantastic network we can tap from to organize great lectures, guest lectures of seasonal professionals, whether they are academics, screenwriters, editors, cinematographers, custom designers, actors, directors at producing, coming from the most advanced countries in the world. When it comes down to filmmaking, much of this network has been built over the years by the founder and CEO of Kwetu Film Institute, Mr. Kabera Eric. It is now up to us to make good use of the existing network and find ways to incorporate this in a grand strategy that will make Kwetu and Kigali the hub for filmmaking in the region and on the continent. And I am certainly loving it. Kwetu Film Institute. I've got you right here. Copy. I'm going to go up here into the header and paste that. Copy it all and paste this on all of the various pages where we are. Eric Cabrera, Kwetu Film Institute. And I'm going to see what I can do to contact Eric Cabrera as soon as possible and get him on. He's been on LIB radio at least 2 times. He is my friend from many years back. And just what can I say? I just have the greatest admiration and the greatest respect for my brother, Eric Cabrera. So, on that note, I think we are done with this for today. Today has been a good day on LIB Radio. And I will try to get a hold of the sister who we were supporting. We donated a camera to her. We got her a digital camera and a number of other things. We gave her money. She was well worth it. And she did go to college to become a doctor in Cuba. So hopefully we'll be able to chase her down and she will be able to share with us her experience in Cuba. So, on that note, we are done with it for today. And once again, I'm going to get this thing running right. It should have been running right. Bear with me. I'm going to do this right. It runs okay at the beginning of the show, but by the end of the show, it gets stupid. So we are at the end of the show, and the music gets stupid. And so, what can I say? It just does what it does. Thank you all for tuning in today. You've been tuned into your favorite. We aim to be your favorite. We are LIB Radio. We are LIB TV. We are livinginblack.com. Peace and prosperity to each and every one of you.